Alright guys, we're in for our next installment on snare traps this time. We have right here an L7 snare, and before we start, I'm going to talk about this setup. A little piece of fishing rod, and there's a toggle on the end tied at different lengths. Don't worry about the toggle. For this trap in particular, the toggle is simply a device that allows me to switch out loops. Lets me make different traps for demonstration without having to tie a bunch of knots and untie them to take the traps apart. So let me pick this up and come in and show you how this one works. This is the L7 or rolling snare. It's basically just two hooks that happen to mate up or come close to mating up with each other. On here, now this is just a very short piece for demonstration. You have a snare, and this is a trail set type trap. This is typically not baited, although I'm sure there are variations of which. And you would take sticks, put them in a V-shaped to funnel the animals into the trap. As an animal goes into the trap, walks in, and that's it. I'm going to set the camera down and do this one more time, just in case that wasn't as clear. Get a little different angle. I'll try to do all the traps that I'm showing from multiple angles, although this is probably the easiest snare other than a static snare. So animal comes in, a little bit of tension, tightens down on the noose, and that's that. It's the end of this trap. So give me 1 second, I'll set up the next trap. And the next one will be a treadle snare, but we're going to do that just a little different as well. Oh, actually, changed my mind. I'm going to show one more thing. Since this is for blade forms, again, anything done with a knife for this series will be done with the Escobar. And this is the 4th thread I've used the Escobar, and I haven't needed to sharpen it yet. So here is my cordage, and one thing of note, on the bottom of this cordage is a sliding loop. This is much easier to make than you might think. All you have to do is take reverse wrap technique to make cordage. Wrap one piece of cordage around another, start spinning. It will automatically make a loop at the end of the cordage that can slide up and down to give you a more varied option for setting this trap. Okay, on to the treadle. So first, I'm going to reposition the toggle, and we'll say here is good. And that is what I really like about this setup. It is very versatile, even though the traps are in such miniature. So again, I will do this from another angle in a moment. Put one piece under here. Wrap the toggle around. Put the bait stick. You know what would help? Actually putting the snare on there. So last time I forgot the snare and tried to do it while it was set, I almost caught it across the glasses. So this time I'm going to unset it. Alright, I just have a few loops in here that allow me to slide and adjust the locations of these temporary snares. Let's try this again. Alright. Now, for this trap, just ignore this piece. This is just excess. And I'm realizing what a terrible angle this is to show the trap. So hopefully this won't be set off, but give me a moment. I'm going to try to spin this around. this is a little better. I'll do a close-up in a moment, but we have a sliding loop snare set across the stick that you walk on. Now, there is a very easy way to increase the size of the trigger. Remove the snare, place a bunch of sticks, 5, 6 over it to make kind of a lattice. Step on any of the sticks, the snare will be set. But I actually use this baited and use it as a neck snare. I'll show you how in a moment. But when the animal steps on the treadle, well, you know, that time it happened to miss my finger. So let's see if we can do this again. I'm not going to do another take. If it didn't work, it didn't work, and we'll see if I may have set it a little bit wrong or had a bad angle. Alright, we have the snare again. I'm not sure, but I also may have kind of jumped a little. It did surprise me just a tad. Get this out of the way. Put the snare over the treadle. Take a finger. Better yet, since it definitely won't have any issue flinching, take a little stick. Let's see what I am doing wrong. Okay, if I mess this up 3 times in a row, I will stop the camera and figure out where my mistake is lying so that I don't waste your time watching. Well, it worked that time, but to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure what the difference is. I really don't see anything that I did differently. Well, obviously there's something, or it would have worked the first 2 times. So let's bring the camera in, see if it works this time. I'll get a nice close-up and a side view, and we will see if we can figure out what I did wrong. Okay, well, here is the setup. You'll see the spring tension from the tree, fishing rod in this case. Go ahead and set the camera down. Back the tension here. We have 2 Y-shaped, in this case L-shaped, but 2 Y-shaped branches stuck into the ground. We have 1 post stuck into the ground, which I actually use a tree pretty often for that. And we have a toggle. So we're going to take the big stick, going to put the toggle under here. We're going to put the trigger stick here. And we're going to set the noose right across the trigger. I'm using high-vis orange because hopefully that'll be a little easier to see. And I think I know what I did wrong. I don't think I bent the noose down on both sides. You kind of fold it over. So here is the trigger. Like I said before, you can, underneath the loop, lay a bunch of sticks, and that way anytime it steps on a stick, you'll trigger the trap. But what I actually like to do is put bait underneath the trigger. I like bait to be right here. The reason I like that is this is a very sensitive trap, and typically any animal is going to bump into the trigger when it goes off. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. I just forgot to fold down the edges of the snare loop. Very easy to fix. Now, this is actually adjustable in sensitivity. I'll show you how. The bait stick right here is touching a toggle. If the toggle is contacted up here, it'll be less sensitive. Down here, more sensitive. I have it about 2/3 of the way down. So this is at a pretty good sensitivity for this size trap for a game like a squirrel. He is going to push his head to get an acorn, and there we go, one snared animal. Now, this is a quick release snare just for demonstration purposes, but obviously you would want something self-tightening for the actual trap. So next time, we're going to make a bow and arrow trap that has a tensioned arrow and a tripwire. The tensioned arrow is fired when the tripwire pulls a toggle at the trigger. That's going to be the next installment. See you next time.